Hello and welcome to News Center. I am Ashmit Kumar. Women and young voters could play a key role in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections. The final electoral roll for 2024 shows that the states of Delhi, Bihar, Karnataka, Uttarakhand and Andhra Pradesh could see more young voters as compared to 2019. The data also shows that the number of women voters outnumber men in the states of Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh and now the state of Manipur as well. Other states have also seen a significant surge in registered women voters. Now, to take this discussion ahead, I'm now joined by retired Major General Anil Verma. Currently, he heads the Association for Democratic Reforms. Major General, thank you so much for joining us, for being a part of this conversation. Very interesting data points coming in. A big spurt being seen in terms of young first-time voters between the age of 18 and 19, as well as women voters becoming more electorally participative. The question I want to ask you is, will this translate into perhaps changes to the issues that will be contested? Will it make a difference to the war room of political parties? Will it result in a few issues gaining significance as we come closer to the Lok Sabha elections?
Okay, thank you for inviting me. I've just listed down certain points and I'll try to answer your question specifically. And as we go along in the discussion, maybe I can make a few other points. So as you brought out, there are about 900 million voters in our country. Out of that, 400 million are young. That is 65% of the population below 65 years as of now. And coming to the question of whether, the increased number of youth and women, does it translate into the making of policies relevant or beneficial to these two sections of the society is the question mark. We have had a number of discussions on this. Even in our national conference, we had kept this as one of the topics, youth and women participation. And there were a number of experts who gave their views. This was in July last year. And what we found was that it does not translate into the actual this. What the youth wants is, it is their own lives which are important to them, and they are looking at unemployment, career, education, facilities, and all that. The young ladies who are, the new voters and all, they are looking at aspects of safety, harassment, abuse, domestic abuse, and all that, And so the percentage of disparity in the women voters vis-a-vis the candidates who actually, women candidates I'm talking about, who contest elections and are elected, there is a wide gap. For example, in the 16th Lok Sabha, 75% women MPs were there, out of which there were, just about 20% who did not have a dynastic background. All the others were wives or, cousins and nieces of the political background people. So basically, one issue which, the politicians say as to why the women should not be given votes is their winnability factor. That again is untrue. 80 to 90% of the women candidates who contest elections generally win. And I have also seen, like in these recent elections which took place, these 4-5 states, the voting percentage with the winning women candidates have is much higher than the male. As a matter of fact, generally the highest voting percentage is of women.
Right.
Always there is one.
Right, Major General.
Yeah.
Right, Major General. You've shared a lot of interesting data points with us, which in your assessment reflects how the number of voters in terms of young voters, women voters, does not necessarily translate into policy change. Let me then ask you a follow-up question. We're coming close on the heels of the Ram Mandir ceremony, the Pran Pratishtha ceremony that took place in Ayodhya. The Prime Minister announced it as the beginning of a new Kal Chakra. Now, for a Gen Z voter hearing these conversations for the first time that are very neatly packaged and put together, the question I want to ask you is, will the temple politics of the 90s strike a chord with the Gen Z voter? Or will they be more concerned about perhaps economics, about growth, about inflation, about jobs? Will that be something that will be higher on their agenda, higher on their cards?
As I mentioned earlier, the various discussions and webinars that we've had on this topic, because I know it is a very important issue, participation of youth and women in the electoral politics. Just, celebrating world's largest democracy, etc., is not enough. You have to bring policies which are youth-centric, which give them higher opportunities. You have to integrate the migrant voters, the young people I'm talking about. Some of them are students, some of them are working away from their head. There's no facility for them to go back to vote. When you speak to the ECI officials or the retired CECs and all who are there in the discussion, they say, oh, there is a facility for them to change their address and all that. No, which young man wants to, go through the rigmarole of doing that whole process with the election commission of changing their this thing, and then when after some time going back to their own original home state and again doing the whole process there, they're not interested in that. So these issues, emotive issues, are always raised by the political parties, be it whether the present one in power or the other ones. They create these emotional issues and they try to garner the votes. But my personal feeling and whatever discussion we had is that youth is, like I mentioned earlier, they want youth-centric issues. Another thing which they talk about is, they say that mostly, I would say, though the percentage is slowly changing, I'm talking about the age of the people in power. They are generally above 60. I mean, if you see the bell curve in all our ADR reports, we give out the age factor also. You'll find bulk of them are between, I would say, 55 to 70 years of age. So the youth also feels there is a disconnect.
I'll just have to come in there.
Yeah, please.
I'll just have to come in there again. You're very interestingly pointing out that there is a growing demand from the youth as well to identify some of these issues. We're running out of time, so I'll just club two questions into one. The first is just looking at the most recent example that we have from 2019. 40% of the youth voting for the party in power, voting for the incumbents. 40% of women voting again for the incumbents. How do you see this? Is this a result of some of the government programs and schemes yielding results, or are there other factors at play? And in the middle of all of this, I'll just throw in the word Retd culture as well. That is something that the government is batting against, but the youth and the women happen to be some of the biggest beneficiaries in some of these schemes. So just your take on that.
So I would say that, yes, it has made a difference. Some of these schemes have benefited the women. And that is why they come out more and more in turnout, so that, their policies are made in respect of women specific issues, So definitely there is an impact of these things. Now that Retd culture versus freebies and all, that debate is a separate debate. But my take is still this, that the young men, they are looking at employment. They are looking at better career opportunities, the projected figures of the employment which would be given by the government vis-a-vis what has actually been given, there is a wide gap. So this is what my take is. And, the voter apathy is still there amongst the young people. They have to be, cajoled and got out to vote, though there is a increase, because maybe it's the thing that things will improve for the better in the future, and they are hoping that with this dispensation there may be better times ahead, but a lot needs to be done.
Sure. Major General, always a pleasure speaking to you. Thank you so much for your time. But with that, we're heading into a very short break. But coming up, billionaire Elon Musk has criticized the United Nations for not making India a permanent member at the United Nations Security Council, calling for an overhaul in the UN agencies. A special discussion when we come back with former diplomats Ashok and KC Singh on the other side. Stay tuned.